most of the development that your team do has little to no business impact. If you are a product leader, like a director of product management, a VP, or a CPO, you probably have seen sometimes that your teams are very busy, they're delivering a ton of features, but there's no business impact. The business stays the same. There's very little differences when it comes to what is being done in the product. In this video, let's talk about why this happens and how you can solve it. So this is not something that I just say, but there are studies from different universities and research groups or companies that have looked into this and how companies are strategically aligned to their goals they have when it comes to the development. But the sad reality is that in most of the cases, most of the companies are not aligned when it comes to being strategic, which means that there's no growth, which means there's no business impact in the work that they are doing. So why does this happen? So there are many reasons, but I'm going to go to the main ones and why this typically happens. So first of all is that there might be a strategy, or there might not be a strategy. That can happen as well. But if there is a strategy, it's barely communicated and it's rarely communicated properly. And it might be communicated at one time and hand over and then hope for the best. So there's no way to really remind of what the strategic goals are and how to translate this into success KPIs that can perform or can measure the performance of the teams or can measure the success of the different developments that the teams are doing. So the second one is that companies are in a rat race to just build features, to build new capabilities in the product. This is a problem because companies get very used to taking customer requests and implementing them. Hearing about a customer or a sales case that if we implement this, then we are going to do a sale. And different type of activities like this that are not really necessarily strategic. They are activities that they are taking the product in a certain direction, but they are not necessarily aligned with the direction that we want to take the product. It's a very different story. If those requests are aligned with your strategic goals, that's a completely different story. But in most of the cases, they are not, which means that teams are very busy and they are building more features to satisfy these demands, these nice to have things. But in reality, this is not bringing the product in a direction that is strategic for the business, that is strategic for the company and for the product itself. And this is not just a problem of development teams. If you take the whole company, especially if you start to look into go-to-market teams like marketing or sales, typically this is even increase the problem because those teams, if there's no clear strategy, they will be promoting, for example, marketing to a new industry, for example. But that industry might not be the correct one, the correct fit for the product that you are building. Same goes for sales. Sales might be trying to target new customers where the product is not a perfect fit, but for whatever reason, the sale might be easy to achieve. But this is because these teams are incentivized by the amount of activities, but not incentivized by the quality of those activities that they are doing. And that is, again, just making the problem even bigger than it is when you just think about your development team. Usually, if you have it in development, you're going to have this problem, most likely across different disciplines. So how you can start fixing this? Well, you had to really start looking into the work that your teams are doing and really start to be strategic. You really had to start prioritizing properly to make sure that the activities that they are developing, the ones that they are working on, they are aligned with your strategic goals. They are potentially moving those KPIs, those goals that you set within those strategies in the direction that you want them to go. So for example, they are increasing the number of monthly active users, whatever is the KPI that you're putting. That's a very basic KPI, but there are obviously very many KPIs that you could be defining that really are going to move your strategic goals. And this is where your focus should be. How are those activities, those efforts, how am I prioritizing them so I'm moving the needle? Not that I'm doing nice things that in the end are going to complicate your product because you are just adding way too many capabilities that are for one use case and not for the whole mass of your potential customer base or your prospects. You also have to communicate your strategy very clearly to everybody. Everybody has to understand what your strategic goals are. Everybody had to understand and know by heart that these are the areas that we have to focus on. If people have different interpretations of the strategy, you have a problem. And you also have to start getting teams that are cross-functional, so development teams and go-to-market teams working together, aligning in their goals. And this doesn't mean that you leave it to the teams. As a leader, you have to work with your leadership team, with the head of marketing, the head of sales, and agree on the scope of your goals. If you don't agree with your leadership team, those teams are not going to manage to do the agreement on themselves. That's going to be really hard. If you want to build a system and a set of operations in your teams that really are going to help you to be strategically aligned, for them to really focus on development that is bringing business impact, go check out the course that I put together with the link in the description. So how about you? What do you think are the most critical parts of the process that are preventing you from having business impact? Let me know in the comments. See you in the next one.